Welcome, everyone, to episode 8 of Just Listen. I'm Peter Garino. Today's date is July 13th, 2026. I want to apologize for my absence again last week. To be straight up honest with you, I'm just new routines in my life going on since I started this podcast. This past month, I've just started to go back on my diet, exercise regiment. Those who know me, I go up and I go down on my weight. It's been a struggle of mine for years. This past year, let's say a year ago, I was down to 207 pounds. Keep in mind, I'm 6'2". I was down to 207, 205. I run this once a week, but I ran like 10, 11 miles. I was doing great with my health. I was doing great with my diet. And then I stopped. And then I just got lazy to the point where I gained up and I got back up to 260. So I gained 55, 60 pounds. And less than a year. And like I said, this is a yo-yo effect. I do this yearly. And the common denominating factor for me is alcohol. Specifically hard liquor. Having it in the house. When I lose my weight, I really just don't have hard liquor in the house. I don't stop drinking. 1 to 3 maybe total poured drinks. For those who don't know what poured drinks and counted drinks are, I was 1 to 3 counted drinks, but not all drinks are equal. Like a 12-ounce beer is not the same thing as a 16-ounce beer. It's not the same thing as a 22-ounce beer. It's the same thing when you pour hard liquor. Ounce and a half is not the same as 3 ounces, not the same amount as 4 ounces. What I was doing when I was drinking heavily, I would come home at night, and I worked a lot of nights, and drink 3 poured drinks, and those poured drinks would consist of 2 to 3 drinks within them. So I would be drinking, 6 to 9 drinks a night, 5 to 7 nights a week. And I was an alcoholic. Yeah. Fortunately, I have, I think I have the willpower to stop. I just got to make sure I don't have hard liquor in the house. I think that was just ease of access to me when I get home. It's one of the first things I see when I walk in my kitchen. Boom, I have a nice little display of it. Let's just, let's have one drink. And then when I have one drink, I'm feeling pretty good. Let's carry that on. Let's have another drink. And then and then with that, I also get eat. And then I just want quick, easy stuff that's not the greatest for you, especially late night. So right now with my diet regimen, what I've done in the past, more like, intermediate fasting, especially because I work a lot of nights. I go to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon until my restaurant closes. I really don't eat after 4 o'clock. And that helps me out, with regulating sugars and stuff like that. It's intermittent fasting. My days off, I'll push it to 5, maybe 6 o'clock for dinner and stuff like that. And I'll immediately have a small dessert at the end of it. So right now, the status of my diet right now, since I've started, I'm down to 242. Mondays are my official weigh-in day. I'm down to 242 pounds from 260. I am down to 41 inches on my belly. I was up 44 inches at the start of this. So I've lost 3 inches at the belly and about 18, 19 pounds. So it's a big accomplishment for me. My initial goal will be 215. My overall goal will be around 205. And actually, to the point where I feel healthy. And it's not that I care about anybody, how people think of me or what people, what I look like. I am too damn white to go outside with the shirt off. So that's not happening. Do I want to be a little more toned up and do I want to be healthy? And that's a big thing for me. It's healthy. I've been sleeping better. I've been, a little more alert. I haven't been as groggy. It's helped me physically and mentally and emotionally as well to have this process happening to me. So it's a big, important part of me. So I might give updates on how this goes throughout my, again, my podcast I'm doing here. I just wanted to give an explanation of why I've missed a couple weeks because as I'm trying to get into this routine. I literally, when I wake up, have breakfast, do some chores around the house, and then I work out. My workout usually lasts about an hour and a half. So that, that's a big part of my day right there. And I do that 6 days a week. I do 3 days of cardio and 3 days of strength training. So like, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursdays cardio, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, strength training. And so that's where like the hour and a half of my day goes right there. And so then I have to, try to figure out time to get this snuck into. And plus I also got to make my foods too, because I want to be like better about how I'm eating. I just don't want to buy a bunch of junk food or buy prepared foods. I don't do lean cuisines, don't do any of that crap. That shit's horrible for you. If you're in a pinch and you struggle and you think that's easy for you, go ahead and do it. I always recommend make your own food. Don't be lazy. It's to be honest with you, you can meal prep, and it'd be a lot cheaper for you than doing that. You can take one good sized chicken breast. Actually, it's like 2 meals for a guy like me, who's a big guy. Just what I learned, but for portion controls, is just like use your hand as a good judgment of that. It's the size of your palm. Vegetables, you want the size of your fist. I forget what grains are. I think grains is what you can fit into the cup of your hand. So it's those kind of things that help me out. Thank you for listening to me talk about my weight loss journey and my goals in life with that. And it was like I said, my self accountability. What was the denominating factor of why I kept on gaining weight? And that's alcohol in the house. So I'm done. I'm not having hard liquor in the house anymore. It's not, like I said, it's not going to mean like if I want to go out and have a meal with friends, I'm allowed to have a drink. I'm allowed to have a libation. I'm not going to stop drinking. I don't think I have that much of a problem where I have that fixed. It's not much a fix. And there's times I even have beer at the house. Beer, luckily for me, beer, I can have like one beer and I'll be satisfied with that. I've been happy with the Corona Premiers, like 190 calories per bottle. I'm happy with that. I'm fine. Like I said, I won't drink before I go to work. I don't drink when I get home anymore. And I don't drink any water or anything after 9 o'clock because I just don't want to stay up all night pissing. So, and that's another thing too. I carry this around all day. This about a little over a gallon of water. I drink that every day, including a couple other drinks like my pre-workout drink, my first 12-ounce glass of water in the first thing in the morning. So that's a big factor in my weight loss. So any questions about how that is, let me know. If you want to know what my exercise routine, please let me know in the comments below. I might just start a little thing like, this is what I'm doing, this is my goals. And so that way I'm not just, talking your ear off. If you skip through this, that's great too. So let's get into the just listen part of things. So let's go into some recaps of news in the world and local stuff. Vermont State Senate race is gearing up. We have 6 candidates. I unfortunately had to work a couple Mondays ago where they actually had like a little forum there at the Hartford Municipal Building. The Valley News put out an article about it. Great little article. Read through that and listened to some of the key points of what the candidates had to say. There's some few of them. Right now, full disclosure, one of the candidates is my neighbor, but what he was saying, what I hear from him, Mr. Doobie there, I think he'll be a great candidate, and I think he'll be a great representative for the town of Windsor and the town of Hartford for the Vermont State Senate. He is a retired firefighter from the town of Hartford, Vermont. He's dealt with the community for years on end. And I think he has kind of like more of a local and grasp of the working man's needs are in the state of Vermont. State of Vermont is in struggle right now. And mainly due to the fact that people in the House just care about Montpelier and Burlington. Montpelier's the DC, it has all the rich people, blah, blah, blah. But then you have Burlington, and then that's pretty much what the state focuses on, and the rest of the state can go fuck themselves. That's how I feel. That's how I feel the other constituents in this area that I talk to feel about what's happening in Montpelier. Vermont likes to think that we're like a mini California, but we're not we don't have the population or the financial support of that. The thing about California is Silicon Valley, which is in California, has 1/3 of the United States GDP. So Vermont, our largest exporter, maple syrup and tourism, and tourism has been down since COVID. We had a huge spike in that because everyone was coming up here. People bought houses. It's been a complete fucking shit show with the housing market. I think I'll touch on another episode. But with tourism that peaked and then it's come down. We used to get a lot of Canadian tourists, and that's been ever since Trump's got back in office and his rhetoric against the world, that has been sharply decreased. So Vermont, and especially the Democrats, and their infinite wisdom, think that their answer to everything is just keep on raising taxes, keep on raising taxes, keep on raising taxes. And I'm seeing some of the little small towns are starting to fight back, and they're saying no to municipality budgets, they're saying no to educational budgets. And good. I'm glad that people are, standing up and saying, no, enough is enough. We need to get our shit together and figure out what's going on. Vermont is a very old state and an aging population state. And I saw a thing, I'm not sure entirely true is. I wish I actually did some research on this, but even if a fraction of it's true, is that 4 out of 10 Vermonters are possibly planning or thinking about leaving the state. And let's say that's even half of that, 2 out of 10 Vermonters. That's 20% of the state that people have got to figure out what is going on. Young kids don't stay in the state. One thing, there's no job opportunity in the state of Vermont. I live here in the upper valley in Hartford, Vermont. I'd be willing to bet probably 2/3 to 3/4 of jobs that are people work in this town work over in the state of New Hampshire. Because you come to the town of Hartford, all we got is car dealerships, a couple, hotels, and some tourism things. For the most part, there isn't much of job opportunities here in the state of Vermont. Granted, like I said, Vermont, New Hampshire, there's Dartmouth Hitchcock, you got Hypertherm, you got Temkin. There's a few, Fujifilms. There's a few other things over there. Oh, there's a pharmaceutical company over there. Novo Nordisk is over there, up on Airport Road. So we need to, the state needs to figure out what do we got to do to keep the kids in the state without being like, oh, if you come to our state, we'll give you a bunch of money. I'm like, okay, that's not the answer. That's not a long-lasting answer. That is a quick fix. And then what? They're just going to leave after a little bit and say, because there's no opportunity and there's nothing for them to do here. Granted, during the summer, this, and that, a lot of hiking, a lot of outdoorsy stuff. During the winter, if you like skiing or skating, great. But the problem with skiing and skating, very expensive. And especially with the cost of goods and everything going up, not everybody can afford that. I never got the opportunity to learn that or have the, as a kid. And I moved up here when I was 10 years old. Granted, I said now I'm almost 40 years old. I hate the cold. I hate it with a passion. I hate the winter. That's why I try not to bitch at all during the summer. We've had a heat wave a couple weeks ago. We have another big warm day coming tomorrow. Folks, if you're going to be out tomorrow, please drink plenty of water. That is the best thing you can do. Stay in shade. Drink plenty of water. Not enough people do that. We'll go on that a little bit later. Yeah, I think he has more of a ground grasp of what's going on. And then you have, what's her name, Becca White. I think that I'm like, and I think she's just lost in the sauce. I think she just wants there because she wants to showboat. I think she just wants to have that accolade of, I was a senator in the state of Vermont. And I'm like, and you have like these little pet projects. Like, yeah, I think she was a co-writer on Act 76, which is the early childhood education, which I well said I'm not against. Even Brian Doby brought it up. Like, New Mexico has a universal, which that's not a bad idea. My biggest thing with early childhood education is how do we implement it? And instead of just throwing a bunch of money and be like, all right, here's a bunch of money, where is that money going? Are we building new facilities? Are we building, are we increasing the facility sizes? Are we increasing people who work in those facilities, a number of people so we're able to watch these children? There's a whole bunch of mitigating factors that we got to consider, and we'll see what's going on. I know in the town of Lebanon, New Hampshire, the Boys and Girls Club is working with them and to get zoning permits and things, and quote unquote lease. It's a free lease, but to build a new childcare facility on Seminary Hill. That is a great opportunity for this community. And Vermont needs to look at that kind of stuff. Okay, what can we do? Even if nonprofits come in this area, hey, let's get some nonprofits. We have land here, land here. What can we do to get that? To get childhood education, because we have all this extra money apparently that we're going into with that, because that came out of the payroll tax. So let's look into those opportunities. And like I said, universal childcare education, especially in today's world where both parents have to be at work now. It is not a non-starter. A lot of people now, it's like they're stay-at-home moms just because they can't afford daycare. People will literally be working just to put their kids in daycare and losing money still. And the thing is now, especially if you don't have a degree or something like that, if you can't get a 9-to-5 job, most like retail jobs, restaurant jobs and stuff like that, if you go in there and say, I want Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 8 to 3, they're just going to look at you and say, have a good day. It's the reality of it right now. And I don't think there's a lot of jobs out there right now that are not those in those fields that have the same opening things. So it's definitely like we got to look at opportunities of what we can do to help these families out. So there's that. What else is going on in the local communities? I'm mad at myself. I missed the last town meeting. I have to go look at the minutes. I know the guy who owns the Briggs building was supposed to be there and talk about what he wants, to do with that and how much they want the town to contribute. He inherited the building, my understanding, and really didn't want to do with it. Fine. At this point, it's either one to just give it to the town, let us figure out what to do with it, because then if we're gonna have put some money into it, we need to get some revenue off of this. So that's gonna be a shit show. And I caution the town of Hartford, and I think this is something I'm gonna make sure I'm off this Tuesday, so I'm gonna go and either video or go down to the town hall if there is a meeting. I'm gonna encourage them to be cautious of expenditures and future costs that they're gonna put forth to the horse of town, merely for the fact of the school, the Hartford High School and the middle school, like whether it comes to the heating systems as well as just the whole school itself with the PCBs. And then they're talking about they have to raise the schools, meaning they have to destroy or tear down half the school and remediate that. So it's not a cheap process to contain the building materials that's going to be in, because it has to be contained and then rebuild. That school was probably out of date when I was in school and when I graduated in 2005. So definitely some upgrades definitely need to be done. So I think that's going to be a huge cost of what's going to be going on in the future. So I urge, and I'll continue to urge the town, because even though you have the municipality tax and you have the education tax, and they think, oh, it's two different taxes. Well, it all comes out of my pocket. It comes out of your pocket. So I think that's something we're all going to make sure we keep an eye on. And when we go to the ballots, please, 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 please do some education before you vote for this shit. If you don't know what it is, don't vote on it. And I'm not saying don't go and vote. That is the last thing I'm saying. But just don't vote blindly and say, yep, 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 yep. Especially you old fucks who sit out there, and the boomers who like already own their homes or have cheap-ass mortgage rates or this, and that. I'm glad for you. But the problem is that not everybody else has that opportunity and that luxury. So if you want to keep on voting all this shit in because it's like, that sounds like a great idea. Guess what? Everyone else's taxes going up. Your taxes are going to go up even more, exponentially to the point you're taxed out of this town too. And especially if you can't afford cost of living anymore. So let's keep an eye on that. So I think that's it for local that I have memories on right now. Nationally, I hate being this fucking guy because I hate him. I really do hate him as president, Donald J. Trump. Best con man ever. Literally, if anything could say about him that he was great at, it was being a con man. He conned how many people in the presidency twice, everything he's bought and this, and that. The amount of money he's made on this presidency with this cryptocurrency, it's wild. Yeah, and right now this whole thing with Iran. We're in 4 months plus this there. I'm like, and still no legislative action with this. So it's like, what the fuck is going on with this? If we had an MOU and this and happens. The problem is that right now the JCPOA was a lot better deal than what Trump is probably ever able to achieve. And I think he's realized that, and he's literally a duck out of water right now. He has no fucking idea what to do because he doesn't want to seem like Obama was better than him. Well, I'm sorry, Obama did it better than you. Suck it up. Last I checked, still has 13 service members to pass in this war conflict. And what do we tell them to those families? And I know I've said this, and I hate saying this, but it's something that needs to be said. How much billions of dollars have we spent on this? Well, we can't afford anything else in this goddamn country. We can't afford this, but we can afford a ballroom. We can afford some stupid, expensive things. The pool, he wants some arch thing. He wants some cosmetic shit. Well, real people are struggling to put food on the table. People can't afford medications. People can't afford the rent. People are choosing between rent and medication where they're dying because of that. And you have this jackass here who's just like, yeah. And this is why he's a con man. He has conned you. And he's conned anybody who sits there and stands behind him. And like I said, the people who were behind him on this entire time now have left him or are following suit. They're like, this is exactly what we told you what was going to happen. Exactly to the T, if not worse. And now you want to say, here I am. No, you get no pass on this. You own this. This country is not great right now. We have great people in it, but it's run shitty. This country is full of great opportunity, great people, great motivation. And we're not allowed to exemplify that because we have shitty leadership. No, I'm done with that. I'm done. All right. On to the weekly topic. Our judicial system sucks. United States judicial system sucks. We have one of the highest, I believe, actually the highest incarceration rate of any country in this world per capita. But why is that? I understand. Okay, people who do violent crimes, people who do shit, yes, throw them in jail. But a lot of these people are in jail for non-criminal offenses. It's got to stop. Or people just being stupid. I understand. People being stupid is a stupid thing and they should be penalized. Whether financially, this, civilly, let's keep it at civil. But the point that we're just going to incarcerate people so we can make other people rich. And I think that's a lot of part of it due to the privatized prison systems that we have here in the country. So we need to take a good hard look at our judicial system and what is going on. And this starts with the legislative body, both locally all the way to the federal. It needs to happen. And this includes judges. Judges, I think, right now in this country have way too much power. Way too much power. To the point where they probably think they are the kings because they have if they do anything that's wrong, there's no recourse. They get censured. If a judge does something extremely egregious, may get recalled. This is why either judges need to start being elected. Judges need to be elected. No more appointed anymore. They need to go, because the problem is it's so down the middle. Judges need to be elected because if they're going to represent the people and they're going to choose people, people need to start, because right now we can't trust our legislative body actually to do anything. Well, choose the right people because they're just going to choose whoever's sucking their asses more. So it needs to be come down to here. Judges need to be elected and they need to be held accountable to a team. I know people say there's too many committees. Well, there's just one committee that I'm for. I think we need to have a civilian committee that consists of lawyers, former judges, and civilians, rather local representatives and stuff like that. Look at judicial conduct when it comes to judges. If anything egregious comes to them, they can sit there and like, okay, this judge is completely out of line, this, and this, and they boom. One, they can lose money. Let's put in the contracts, if you do something that's outside the laws and stuff like that, your money. You go to courtroom and you have to abide by the judge's rules, not like the rules of the land. Is bullshit. You're not a king. You're not a queen. Okay, most of you sit there and be like, I am the king of this courtroom. Fuck you, you are. That is our courtroom. You are there to read the law and interpret the law and make decisions on that and how it's written. When it comes to civilly, preponderance of the evidence, not what your feelings are, not what your feelings are, but what is actually written down, and go by that. If somebody's being disruptive and being a little out of line, yes, okay, they could be contempt of court. But many times I've seen too many judges out there who just like get the slightest hair across their ass and we're going to hold you in contempt. And the thing is, the contempt, there's no due process with that. You're automatically thrown in jail until the judge pretty much decides. You have up to 30 to 60 or 90 days that they can hold you up for the smallest offense that they get a hair across their ass. No, I think they need to go to a secondary judge. Any contempt charges that put you in any time there because you need a due process. So, and the fact that a judge can be biased for his own contempt, bullshit. And now we're coming to like personal effects of it. As a judge, you do not have your personal feelings weigh in on decisions. No, it's not how this is done. Your personal feelings should have zero bearing. Your job is to read the law and interpret the law. It's not your job to write the law the way you want it to see fit. It is legislative. They legislate. And then you have the executive branch, governors, presidencies, and the police department who execute the law. They're the ones that are supposed to execute it. That's the whole three branches of government. So judges need to start. And this doesn't just sit here in local courts where it comes to criminal offenses. This also goes to Supreme Court. Supreme Court needs to be reeled in. I think right now, as a people and our legislative body and our executive body, really just depends way too much on our judicial body to the point where the judicial body actually is pedestaled higher above them instead of being equal. There have been times that government has stepped in and the judicial stepped in and made the right calls, absolutely. But there's times that you see the Supreme Court and how it's split upon party lines, or there was with recent rulings like the citizenships, the Trump challenging birthright citizenship. And that's in the fucking Constitution. It's written in law. And he had three. Alito, Thomas, and I forget who the hell the third other jackass. I want to say Kavanaugh. All voted, dissented on that. Try to be on Trump's side saying that there's no such thing as birthright citizens. I go, fuck you, dude. That's written in law. So at that point, you're voting, you're basing your judicial decisions based on personal feelings and political affiliations. Thomas is corrupt as fuck. Clarence Thomas needs to be removed. The fact that he hasn't been impeached and removed is wild. Kavanaugh, he's not the biggest fan of him. I don't think he should be impeached. Amy Coney Barrett, at least she's consistent on her values. So it's like, do I agree with everything? No, but everyone's allowed to have disagreements. So, but Thomas and the stuff that they're voting on, it should be clear cut. The fact that birthright citizenship even got to the Supreme Court, and they actually took that up, to even possibly to talk about it is crazy. So our judicial system right now is in flux, and because it's gotten way too political, and the judicial system should not be political. As far as it should be political is the three branches of government, and that is where it stops. It should be written how the legislative body, whether it's, like I said, local, state, or federal, laid out. Not, and their job is to interpret. Thankfully, we have different stages of courts. You have the local, and then you have the districts, and so on. So it's to the point where we need a good hard look. And this goes down, like I said, to the legislative body. They need to start writing laws more clearly. The problem with, like I said, I think our legislative body have gotten too comfortable with the judicial branch making decisions. Let's take a prime example that everybody knows, Roe v. Wade. When that got overturned, technically there really isn't anything in the Constitution that I understand that really says, states can't do this, because a lot of it, and they send it back down to the states, which I'm not against. But so the states have made laws. A lot of states sent it to votes, and people have voted that abortion rights are rights. Women have that right, which I'm glad that that people have had a voice in that. But it was also the fact that all those years that Roe v. Wade was put into law, when the Democrats never once, that under my understanding, tried ratifying that into the Constitution, into the law books, under the legislative branch. They just kept it under the judicial ruling, which that's not law. That's a ruling. So this is where, like, I've ranted on for a while now. Our legislative body needs to stop being fucking lazy and start doing their fucking jobs, and stop nitpicking. Thankfully, this housing bill just automatically got it passed the House and the Senate. President Trump did not sign it or veto it, so it automatically got enacted into law. I think it was after X amount of days that he just left it in limbo because he was holding it up for the SAVE Act. Whether he did that on purpose or not, I do not know. Me personally, I probably think that he didn't do it on purpose. He probably thought that he was going to hold it and not hold it hostage, and didn't realize there was a time limit on that. And I think a lot of people just didn't tell him because it was actually a bipartisan bill. It was something that helped the American people. Housing might be the next week's topic. So I'm glad that the House and the Senate, both Democrats and Republicans, came together and did something for the American people to make it harder for corporations to buy up houses and buy up properties, to say screw and to hurt the little guy. So there we go. I applaud them. Great job. I really actually am happy that you guys did something for once for the American people and not just for your donors. So that's, my feelings on this. Our judicial system is broken. We need laws. We need federal laws. We need to start filling our prison systems with stupid bullshit. Kids shouldn't be afraid that they're going to go to jail for doing something stupid. And then this is all upon also parents also doing your fucking jobs too. Parents need to step up and do your jobs. Can't depend on the police to do your jobs. Can't depend on the schools to do your job as parents. Discipline your kids. Tell them right from wrong. There is a right and wrong. And there's nothing wrong with telling your kids, hey, this is wrong. I'm not saying you have to beat your children. I'm not saying you have to starve them. I'm not saying you have to do whatever. Send them to some kind of camps. But kids need boundaries. Kids need structure. And that is your damn job as a parent to do that and and realize my kid's fucking up. You need to straighten your shit out because this is not okay. A kid shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes, that they're going to go to jail because parents want to be lazy. People shouldn't be afraid because they make the smallest mistake out there that they're going to go to jail or they're going to be, huge civil fines. Our judicial system is not built for the people. And it's also upon the DAs to stop persecuting on stupid bullshit or just going out hunting just to achieve some numbers. Yeah, I've heard too many cases where someone's gone to court, someone's getting charged because they tried doing the right thing, but then they felt, because they didn't go through the right procedures that no one knows of. Because why would somebody know certain procedures? If you want to talk about some stuff, I'll talk to you. My personal things, write comments below. If you want me to talk about it, I'll do that. But we need a good hard look at our judicial system, and our legislative body needs to spearfront that because that's where it starts. It doesn't start at the judicial system because they won't regulate themselves. It doesn't start at the executive branch because they're unable to do it because all they pretty much just sign law and execute the law. It is the legislative branch on all levels of the governments need to get their shit together. So there's that. Excuse you for the profanity. I'm just very eccentric. I like to and very adamant about this. This is something I've been saying for years. Like I said, I'm not against courts. I'm not against people going to jail. There's a lot of people who are not in jail that should be in jail. Just look at the Trump Epstein files. The fact that we have people right now that are being persecuted for the freaking fucking reflecting pool, but not a single person since the Trump Epstein files have been released has been investigated and persecuted for child trafficking and rape is beyond me. And that just screams cover up. And I think many of you understand why that cover up's happening. You have a nice big orange fella in the White House. So with that is going to be the end of this episode. I appreciate you and appreciate your patience with me. Have yourselves a beautiful day. And remember, with this hot weather, please stay cool. Drink plenty of water. Stay in shade. If you need to find emergency some cooling shelters or cooling stations throughout your local communities. Again, thank you so much. Have yourselves a beautiful day.